Live from the Green Room Studios, from the spacious property of Bates Nursery and Garden Center, 3810 Whites Creek Pike, it's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates.
Oh, welcome in, everybody. It is the At Home Show. It is coming to you live from the Green Room Studios, which is just over a kilometer north of Bradley Parkway.
I'd say it's about a kilometer and a half at least.
But it can't be a kilometer and a half. If it's 1 mile or 0.9 miles, depending upon where you're coming from.
There are 8 kilometers in 5 miles, Josh, just so that you know.
1 kilometer is 0.7 miles.
That's what I just said.
Yes.
So, as per usual,
it's
we're
Saturday morning. We're having
arguing
fun.
in agreement.
Yes, we are. Just over a kilometer. A bit. Anyway, it's a great place
Easily
to come.
over a kilometer.
Easily over a kilometer.
Once you get a kilometer out of the way, you know you're getting close.
Click, 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 click. Here we go. All righty, folks. It is Saturday morning. It means it's time. So we're going to talk about gardening stuff. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we're going to talk about projects today. We've got projects going on here at Bates Nursery, and if you got my newsletter this week, half past July. So set your calendars. If you're running, if you're still not quite up, you should be a little past half past July.
That's kind of like over a kilometer.
So set your calendar.
Yes.
Don't make sure you don't miss that. So we're gonna first of all, as per usual, we're gonna talk about weather. Then we'll get everybody involved.
Hot. Oh.
It's gonna be another hot day. But at this stage of the game, Joy Bovin and I were discussing before when you drove past us this morning. But we were talking about how that indeed it is hot now. But we're all kind of used to it. It's not like it's a shock anymore. Some of us who have to be outdoors a lot have adjusted to it reasonably well. Today is Saturday, and it will be a partly cloudy day. High of 98 degrees today, which is, yes, it's hot. But, it's been hot for like a month.
Forever.
So it's no big shock.
Basically forever.
Hey, who is that voice?
You would. Oh, that was Tyler.
It's me.
Tyler Blankenship.
The Tyler Can.
Good to see you, everybody.
Interrupting my weather.
That's okay.
What else can I interrupt, David?
It's your suggestion. So anyway, it's not just my weather after all. It's everyone's weather. Because we're going to get a little break for the next couple of days, only mid-80s on Sunday and Monday, and a reasonable chance of rain because those are scattered thunderstorms.
Yes.
That means that some people are going to get a good half-inch rainfall, maybe a couple of times. Others will get nothing, and you'll like it. But you will get cooler temperatures, so there's that. And then it warms back up again beginning Tuesday, only 93 Tuesday, and then back up to the 97, 93, 96, 98, 97, 97. It's, that kind of thing.
Ow.
Yeah, so it's the way it is. Fortunately, it's currently 75 degrees here in the Music City, and we are glad to have you aboard this morning on the At Home Show, where we talk about what's going on in your home. Usually it's with regard to your landscape and your vegetable garden, but it's not exclusively that, Josh. As you may know, Josh works in the building industries, and that means he sells things that are made out of wood frequently.
Or vinyl. Or aluminum.
But most of it, if you weighed it all out, what percentage of the weight would be wood that you sell?
As a millwork salesman, a significant portion of it.
In the high 90%.
But being the red-headed stepchild at the lumberyard, and any millwork salesman is always the red-headed stepchild at a lumberyard. Because millwork, it's just a sideline. We take care of you.
By the way, I think it was Dennis.
Oh.
Really excellent delivery guy.
Really? Don't tell anybody about him.
He did not know you, but you're at the other end of the facility, and there's no reason why he would know you. If he knows you, that means there's a problem, and so evidently he's doing his job because he doesn't know you.
Oh, that's
He
good.
did know who Eddie Crosland was, though.
That's a good thing.
Which is a good sign because he signs the checks.
And his name is on the sign.
Yes.
So,
that is an important
and the
thing.
trucks.
But without further ado, we're going to move into the remaining cast members here, as we have frequently every
more
Saturday
at
morning.
homies across the studio.
Caroline Gant, Austin Lowen, welcome in, guys. We're glad to see you today and have you aboard per our usual merry troop of gardening and home repair aficionados.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning to each of you. We were Shannon, who's one of our landscape professionals here, came in this morning looking for you, Austin. He said you had an admirer, and she was enthralled and entranced with you, and she couldn't believe she had the honor of being in your presence yesterday.
He aspires to your greatness.
I don't know about all that.
Yes.
I think that a lot of people don't realize that, I actually work here. This is my
Really?
career.
Oh, okay.
Well, this is just an hour on Saturday mornings, and then there's those other Bates Nursery Botanical Boot Camp episodes that come up on some ongoing basis.
And the Insta.
Speaking of which, what do we have coming up in that regard?
Next week we have filing my
It's
files
the
in
Tyler
brain.
It's
So
Caroline, ain't it?
No, it's Melissa.
It's actually
She's got
Melissa.
Willet Bouquet.
Willet Bouquet. Thank you, Caroline.
And then I'm the following week with growing cactus indoors.
Yep, that's right.
Well,
That's a good one.
prickly situation.
I did not get to watch. I'll have to go back and look at the one that was this week about mid-summer garden maintenance.
I did that one.
That was Austin's.
Mid-season maintenance.
And also, if you subscribe to the newsletter I write every week, there was a link in there that Ben did this week, and that was about all kinds of, refresh my memory on what that was about. I think it was all about things like yucca and other those kinds of plants.
Prickly,
yes.
affair.
A prickly affair, yes, a prickly affair. So anything that has thorns on it or stickers, that's what he talked about. So, and there are really good applications for those. Matter of fact, over the years, on more than one occasion, we've had customers. This is back years ago when we used to do landscape installations. I would have customers who lived near schoolyards who wanted very sticky hedges planted to punish the children who might cut across their yard. Seriously.
Would work?
Yes, it did. So anyway,
Barberries below windows are the original security system.
Well, but yeah, they're good. That wouldn't.
Yes.
Most of the barberries are too low growing to be really effective. For,
Not on a
for
little
kids. Yeah, they just jump over it.
Ow!
I mean, they get little thorns in their shins and they just carry on. So
Part of the summer fun.
Anyway, so we're all here to talk about landscaping, home improvement, and you have the opportunity to interact with us through our various social medias, either through our Facebook or Instagram pages, either through Bates Nursery or the At Home Show. All are received and read by us, and we do that on the air, and we're going to start with Caroline and let her guide us through that process.
Yes.
Take it away, Caroline.
Tyler, there we go. Now
Sorry.
I'm here.
He's-
Tyler,
Showrunner duties.
I don't think he was sending a message.
Y'all were cavorting over there.
were we?
Yeah, you were doing some.
I feel like I was listening about kids getting poked by bushes, but all right. So, why aren't my dahlias blooming this year? I left in ground over winter, and they are tall.
All right.
That's
Dahlias.
a good question to start.
Dahlias,
Your favorite?
Top 5 at least for me when it comes to, we say annuals. They're not necessarily annuals. You left yours in the ground and they came back. So that means they're perennial. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Now, it is a touch early for dahlias to be blooming. Okay.
Yes.
So I had not noticed a lot of dahlias around town blooming yet. I know Melissa, who's doing our webinar next week, she's our annual specialist here. She's got a lot of dahlias right now, and I have not seen a picture yet from her dahlia garden. She's got a whole dahlia garden.
Wow.
And I have not seen any pictures from hers yet, so they are just simply not blooming yet. It takes they have very large blooms, takes a lot of energy for them to produce those flowers. So if your plant's big and looking healthy, then just give it some time. It will bloom.
And dahlias are another of those, those bulb type plants. They have tubers under the ground, and because they produce such a mass under the ground, they can Like iris, they can crowd themselves. So if you don't dig them up and spread them out, if they're over a course of several years, they'll simply just get too thick and they won't do anything. It doesn't sound like that's the case in this situation. We see that in iris quite frequently. They seem to just proliferate when they get in a spot, and if you don't dig them up, you're going to just have foliage. You won't have many flowers. So for those who are willing to go through the process, my grandmother, this business that we're at this morning, that's what my grandmother
Nanny
really started between dahlias and geraniums in the greenhouse. Geraniums in the greenhouse and hoeing dahlias out in the garden. She sowed cut flowers and potted plants, and that's the very thing that Bates Nursery was started with.
Well,
that's interesting. I didn't know that. There's almost no better flower to cut than a dahlia and put in a vase. They're massive.
And in case you think organics might be questionable, and they're not, by the way, back when my grandmother started the business 90 years ago, there was nothing but organics. It was called put old rotted manure in a
pot
in a whiskey barrel that has no whiskey in it, by the way. Fill it full of water, and you churn it, make a brine, and you take that brine and you water the geraniums.
Everybody else get their breakfast ready while we're going.
That's how it was done back in the day. So,
All right, so moving on to our next question. 6 to 8 foot tall shrub for a spot that gets blasted by afternoon sun.
Blasted. It's especially strong sun because it's afternoon. It's not like the sun that's coming around the corner in, say, late morning. It's blasted.
It's
in the afternoon. It's actually the same sun, isn't it, Austin?
It is. But it does
really?
get a little bit more intense later on. And I noticed they said too hot for hydrangea.
They also did say too hot for hydrangea.
And no, not necessarily. So the panicle style hydrangeas, which are the full sun hydrangeas, can literally take sun all day. They really can.
I have some that get blasted by afternoon sun.
Blasted.
And they certainly can take
They're
that. Now, on the first season, they're going to probably wilt on you a little bit. You're going to have to keep them moist. Hydrangeas certainly like water whenever they're young. But once a shrub really gets established and it latches in and finds its own water, you really don't have to do much. So if you want to use hydrangea in the backdrop, which is a good application, y'all, a lot of people want to put the evergreen stuff in the back and they put the flowering stuff out front. And there's certainly plenty of applications where that's fine. But if you want large growing flowering plants like panicle style hydrangeas, putting them in your back row against your brick wall or whatever is the way to go about it. And then put your evergreen stuff out in front of that, say like boxwood or something that stays more tidy and evergreen. What you get is a big flowering shrub in the backdrop, atop of your evergreen plant. And then over the wintertime, you can simply cut those sticks back, and you've got an evergreen shrub that's out in front of those sticks that kind of covers them up for the wintertime whenever they're not all that pretty. So
another hydrangea that's great for that is oak leaf hydrangeas. They have great foliage and wonderful flowers. And the only downside to that, if you cut those, every few years you may need to cut them simply to keep them in bounds, but they do exactly what you're saying. They really provide a cushion, and particularly if you have a brick residence. That's where a lot of people will struggle early on with plants that are near the foundation and get that reflected afternoon sun. It can be 140 degrees reflected off that brick. So until you can, as you say, get it latched on, until it grows big enough to be able to shade the wall enough to be able to create a cool spot for itself, and then it provides that insulating barrier between that and whatever you have planted in front.
I have a neighbor. Tyler.
Sorry.
That's okay. I have a neighbor that has several of the oak leaves right out in the yard. And they get blasted from morning until night, and they're beautiful this year, as a matter of fact.
Blasted.
Yeah, honestly, once hydrangeas, they get a bad rap for needing a lot of shade or whatever, and that's not necessarily the case. It's just all about getting them established. That's the key, is that in the sun early in the season, and this goes with a lot of different hydrangeas, they're going to wilt on you on that first season. They really are. Wilting is okay. I mean, totally okay. Wilting just means, hey, water me and I'll perk back up. But to get your best flower show, your best flower production, a full sun kind of environment, 4 to 6 hours at least of sun for a hydrangea is really what you want. So, but other than that, if you want to go with other routes, I mean, there's certainly plenty of options for a full sun 6 to 8 foot growing shrub. that we can certainly help you find. Laurel comes to my skip laurel comes to mind as a good plant for that.
Not the Buffy laurel, just the skip.
Yeah, skip laurel, which goes a little bit more upright in habit and can get 6 to 8 foot tall easily. You can even exceed that if you let it, but you can be maintained at that. So that's a nice evergreen backdrop as well if you do want, the leaves for the backdrop of the bed.
This discussion might lead into another question that we had from Kimberly on the Facebook page, and she wants to know: Is it too late to plant anything?
What time is it?
That's what I asked. What time is it?
It's
No,
only
it's not
8:15.
too late.
And the great thing about living in our part of the world is that we have 12 months of the year planting. The only time that you cannot plant here is when the ground is frozen, and that's not very much. We did have about 2 years ago, we had a few weeks where we had frozen ground and precipitation, snow and ice. But other than that, you can plant any day, 7 days a week, 12 months out of the year.
What's the best time, David?
3:30.
Of course.
And, because the at-home show's not on at 3:30 unless you decide it is.
Yes, because you can watch it anytime.
Yeah, you just can't watch it live at 3:30.
I tell you one thing, I ain't about to be planting a tree at 3:30 in the afternoon today.
What's that?
No.
But I'm waiting till 8 o'clock at night almost.
Yeah, this is a good time of year to be digging holes in the early morning and late in the day, and getting that done then, and saving the hand watering. Not the foliage, the soil. You want to get the water where it's needed. The foliage does not need it. Matter of fact, there's a number of things if you're blasting it with water and getting it wet, and it's in the hot sun, it can scald it. So,
Yep.
that's
Don't
why
water leaves.
that's why you notice when it's raining, the sun's not out. It's because there's clouds.
Really?
That's true.
Wow.
Little known fact. Caroline, let's take it back to you before we get too far off.
Okay. Yeah, Josh was about to derail.
Oh, and Tyler's got something he wanted to say.
Well, we have another question from Kimberly on the At Home
Okay.
Show Facebook page. How long does it take for hydrangeas and rhododendrons to bloom? Mine are 2 years old and nothing.
And they're getting that much sun?
That's interesting.
No, that's a different question.
Rhododendron is a little different than hydrangea. Rhododendron
Yes.
can take some time to bloom. It'll kind of set in like Caroline
Mine took
here.
3 years.
Yeah, I was about to say,
before.
she had one, and it bloomed this year, and it was gorgeous.
It held the buds for a long time, years.
Yeah, so rhododendrons are slow. They're slow to latch in. That's just kind of the way it is. Now, hydrangea is a little weird. I don't know which one you're talking about.
Probably a garden hydrangea.
Probably
I'm guessing.
like a macrophylla would be.
And some of the old cultivars are less than reliable as far as every year flowering.
Yeah.
Now, most of the newer types are all these repeat blooming types. They're pretty good about blooming. You don't ever get the profusion that you get with some of the old types like the Nico Blues and that kind of thing. But you do get some flowers throughout the growing season generally.
Yeah, so, gosh.
Is this could be a trimming issue with her?
Potentially.
Yes.
I mean, it potentially could. If you plant hydrangeas and you don't get any leaf growth from those old sticks, you don't see a good bloom set for the next season, if at all. So that could be what's going on. I kind of need some more info to really let you know. But honestly, the biggest key with gardening across the board is patience. And, if you didn't get it this year, stick in there. If you got a green, happy, healthy plant, let it be. It's just going through its stuff.
And if you want to know when to trim something that flowers, trim it after it flowers.
Yeah.
That's it. And if it's not flowering, then just don't trim it. Let it go a little bit, and it eventually will. And of course, in the case with like Caroline's rhododendron, once those things, and I love the term latched in. Once they get latched in, they become extremely happy if you get them in the right spot, and they become growing machines.
Oh gosh!
It will take over the whole side or corner of your house. So it's
Or a mountain.
they're quite happy if they get.
They
in the
call
right
them
spot.
rhododendron hails, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
I've not heard that
A
reference.
hail of them?
Is that HAIL or HA?
It's East Tennessee. You do your own spelling.
Yeah. Okay. We might not even know what word they're actually saying.
Hail.
Hayl.
You can't hike through them. You
All
go
right,
under
let's
them
get
or
to our
around
next
them.
question because
Okay.
we have a photo that goes along with this.
Uh-oh.
Dun.
Right.
You can always send photos in. They help
photos.
all of us, by being able to take a look at them. My echinacea is doing something weird. It's trying to bloom, then doesn't. The flowers just stay like this, which Tyler's going to throw up the photo. Last year it had great flowers, and my other plants and echinacea are all growing fine. So there it is.
Okay.
It's a new cultivar.
They're green.
There are new green cultivars. That
Yes.
is true. But if yours was not green last year, you might have a significant issue. I hate to say it.
Uh-oh.
You might have the virus.
Oh,
You know,
Dun, dun.
I'm serious. It's a virus called Aster yellows, and it greatly affects echinacea. Now, your blooms aren't as weird as typical Aster yellows present, so I'm not 100% that that's the case. But viruses, I talked about this yesterday actually, because we have an email from a person that has a hydrangea that was looking really funky. And one big thing about viruses, and this goes with viruses, and I'll just mention while I'm on it, Roundup poisoning. So
Right.
if you the drift with Roundup, so little bitty particles that get on your plants don't necessarily kill the plant, but what they do is they make it look really funky. Now the same thing with viruses, they almost present exactly the same way, to where you get really for lack of a better term, like I said, funky growth. It looks weird. It does not look right the way it should be. A lot of times with echinacea, just like that, they stay green and they don't turn any sort of color, and they get this weird looking growth. I can see that one bloom right there, which is what's making me think it's got a weird turned back petal to it.
it does look very unusual. And again, back to the Roundup reference, it could be that you're getting some minor drift. And a common error that is made when people are using Roundup in a pump-up sprayer is over-pressurizing and over-atomization. You want to operate that. You don't want to fog it ever. You want to have it at a kind of a medium cone setting on the nozzle, and at the lowest pressure you can, to just get that cone to come out. You want to increase the droplet size so that it does not produce any mist. That mist is what carries. I mean, it can carry 20 or 30 feet pretty easily if it gets airborne, and it obviously is. If it's in a mist, it's just going to float right over. It might not be enough to show up on the foliage, but you can still get a
Little burn. And
you can get a toxification, not intoxication, but a toxify. They can become have a toxic reaction to that, and that may well be what you're seeing on.
It could be. It's and either way, the best answer for you is that if it is a virus, it's not getting better. I'm sorry. There's no cure for viruses, especially Aster yellows, which is a very common virus that happens on a lot of different plants. And if you do have that, unfortunately, you need to get rid of it, throw it away in a trash bag, burn it, whatever you need to do, because insects are the main vectors of spreading viruses around. So if you start to see insects on those plants, they can jump to your healthy ones and infect them just the same. So unfortunately, I do think that's what you have, and you might need to go ahead and remove them.
now, would you do anything to the ground below?
No, it's not a soil-borne pathogen at all. No,
Okay.
it's vectored by insects.
And if she's really wanting to try to observe them, dig them out and put them in a container and water them and put them away where they're not anywhere near your other plants.
Desirables, yeah.
And that way you can continue to observe it and see if it's going to make it, or, as you said, if you want to be the most careful, put it in a trash bag and put that trash bag in a trash bag and be done with it, because it's the viruses that plants get. There is no cure. So
Not compost pile.
No,
do not put it in
the compost.
No, you can't reliably assume you're going to get high enough temperatures to kill those pathogens off. It could, but it might not.
Yeah, sometimes your best bet is just to cut your losses with plants. It really is. It's sad. A lot of people hate doing it, but it'll make your garden happier and healthier if you just go ahead and get rid of that problem right now.
it is sad. I had to do that with one of my plants this year,
Uh-oh.
Which one?
my Brugmansia.
Oh,
Your
that's
what?
right. I remember that.
Yep. It was really sad.
She moped for days.
For days and days, I just stood in the garden center and cried. Couldn't even help customers. It was so pitiful. But I put a patio peach there, so, it all turned out well in the end. So let's get to our next question. We have a lavender question.
All right.
Any tips or tricks to keeping lavender happy?
Oh yeah, I got tips and tricks.
Oh, there you go.
Actually, when it comes to lavender, I guess the biggest thing we need to know is, first off, they really like it hot. They really like it on the dry side, and with well drained soil. That's the key. Here in Middle Tennessee, we don't necessarily have really well-drained soil all the time. That's just how it is. So if you're going to ever plant a plant and want to do some soil prep, lavender is certainly the one you want to do it with. We sell a product here which is expanded shale, which is literally for y'all. If you look at it, just tiny rocks. And you can mix that in with your soil. Really, you can put a good amount of that in with your clay soils if you want to plant it in the ground. To really
that earth mix product is called Enlighten.
Enlighten, that's correct. And
in the yellow bag.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, that's a soil amendment that I honestly do think you ought to use for lavender. This also goes with rosemary. Both are very similar plants. And lavender will perennialize here just fine. It really will. A lot of people talk about it being too cold. It's not necessarily too cold in Middle Tennessee over the winter. It's too wet.
Yep.
It stays wet over the wintertime. And lavender is an evergreen plant, but it stays moist. If it stays too wet over the wintertime, they simply don't return very well, or they just rot at the crown. So those are some things we want to do is prep our soil, get really adequate drainage in there, and then stick it in a very hot spot. I mean, really just a good open, sunlit area. We do not want shade at all if we can help it, and you should have pretty good success with it.
Yeah, they're one of the best plants in Mediterranean climates, and they're wonderful for that. And they're such reliable bloomers. They never stop blooming.
Yeah.
And I'm a frequent traveler to and admirer of central Mexico, and it's a plant that is used extensively in planters all over areas like that, and loves the sun, and as you say, absolutely must have drainage that will allow it to have the opportunity to get dry. It can't stand wet feet.
No, definitely not. Another little tip is that after the wintertime, a lot of times lavender can look a little ratty, a little leggy, if you will. Sometimes giving it a clear cut to the dirt, honestly, and let them regrow from the roots. I've done that many a times, and it's proven to be a good little method. We can get a little, like I said, even if they do have good drainage, over the wintertime, they don't just look great, y'all. They just really don't. They can get a little rough. So giving them a clean cut early spring straight to the ground and let them regrow from the ground will create a nice clean plant for the next season as well. So
Nashville is decidedly non-Mediterranean.
That's right.
We have the extremes here.
That's right. But we can grow lavender. Just got to do some stuff.
Yep.
We can. You're right. Speaking of Enlighten, though, I love it for houseplants, specifically cacti and succulents. So
You did something yesterday for a customer.
did do something
What'd you do?
yesterday for a customer. They brought in a.
Were they giddy when you did it?
They were actually,
Okay.
She was
and
giddy.
she was great. Yeah, she was a very nice customer that came in with a.
She wasn't starstruck, was she?
No, she wasn't.
No.
No,
Y'all quit.
didn't get one of those.
You're
she
much
was
more
after I
approachable,
came out.
I think.
I'm so friends. That smile of mine,
Yes.
you know. I make people feel so warm and comfortable.
Hey, Austin can turn on the charm.
That is true.
Oh.
But it's
It's
a lot.
turning
It's a
it
fiery
off.
charm.
It's
Turning
turning
it
it off. That's the hard part. Yeah.
But anyway, so she brought in like a mixed container of succulents, and they were kind of doing sad. So I walked her through how to take care of them, and I kind of repotted it up and added some succulents from the nursery into it. And then on the top, I did put the Enlighten just to help with watering, so it didn't wash her plants out. Gives it a nice desert look, but it also holds those plants in the planter while they establish their roots. So
That's a
I
really
love it.
great point.
Yeah.
Like really, at the end of putting in succulents don't have just a massive root system all the time, especially whenever you're transplanting some. So what Caroline's talking about is putting those rocks, those little tiny rocks, more or less, the pebbles. Yeah, that
there
look,
it is.
They look very nice, really nice with houseplants. I mean, it's a great just top dressing for an aesthetic look. But like she was saying, packing those around the stems keeps that plant tight in the pot where it needs to be. So it's awesome for houseplants as well. So
It's great. I also mix it into the soil. So like what you were talking about with lavender, with cacti specifically, I will mix that in or put some in the bottom. If you go to the Earth Mix Instagram page, last year I potted up an aloe for a customer here at Bates Nursery, and I did the same thing. And I believe there's a very gorgeous photo up on Instagram, and you should also give Earth Mix
Well,
a follow.
speaking of Earth Mix, why
Yes.
don't we elaborate on that just for a moment? And of course, at all your best garden centers around Middle Tennessee, Kentucky, even up into Indiana and Ohio, Earth Mix garden products are well represented for premium garden centers all over the areas. And these are the folks that know their stuff, because there is a difference between Earth Mix and pretty much everything else that's on the market. And Earth Mix has been and continues to be developed with organics in mind, sustainably produced, but also to give you the range of products that give you the ability to grow anything and do it not just where it hangs on, but where it really thrives and does its best. Doing little tips and tricks like Caroline and Austin are talking about, incorporating Enlighten is one of the great Earth Mix products that is available. And there are a great many others, such as Earth Mix Landscape. If you're planting this time of year, it's a great product to use. Perhaps you go to a garden center and they have Earth Mix products and they don't have that one. Earth Mix Garden will also do a great job for you to mix in with your soil or to plant directly into. So no matter what you choose, Earth Mix Garden products are going to give you the best results, and you can do so confidently and knowing that when you use most of the Earth Mix products, you don't even have to fertilize for the first few months. Matter of fact, Austin's got plants that he's never fertilized that continue to grow and do well. So check out at earthmix.net. Go over to the Find Earth Mix tab, and if you click on that, it gives you a map. It shows you all the pins and locations of Earth Mix locations. You can either zoom in or put in your address for turn-by-turn directions. Remember this, success in gardening begins at the ground level when you use Earth Mix garden products, and we appreciate you giving us a moment to talk about that.
Sunshine, plants, Earth Mix, water. Key to your success.
It's about that straightforward. So
it is at my house.
I mean, that's the basics. That truly is the basics. You have to know with plants to get them going first. It's simply that simple. Water, sunlight, and good soil. I mean, that nutrient, that's the basis. Once you learn that and get that figured out, you can do so much stuff. It's getting that figured out.
I need to bring a photograph in. 4 years ago, we had a 120-year-old sugar maple in front of our house that was dying, and we had done everything with arborists trying to save it, and it was clearly in decline. It wasn't going to get better. And you don't replace a tree that's 30 inches in diameter and 40 feet tall. You simply can't replace it. So we had to have it. We could have waited and let nature take it down. We opted to not do that because it falls where it does, and
gravity is hard to beat.
We wanted to kind of steer that in a direction, so we had the tree taken out, the stump ground out, and then I had my good friend Dan Knetzer come out with his track hoe and dig out the remainder and break out all that we could, and then I went in there and put compacted sifted topsoil back in there so I could grow grass in that spot. I moved away about 8 or 10 feet and planted a autumn blaze maple in the yard. It is a cross between silver maple and red maple, a very fast growing tree that also has great color. But the key and where I'm going with all this is I planted this thing in the most absolute premium way you could do it. I mean,
people.
I cut no corners, and this tree was about a 1-inch caliper in a 15-gallon container, which is about normal. Then this 3 years later, it now is above 6 inches in diameter, and it is approaching 25 feet tall. It is a massive tree. So so very quickly. I tried. There were perhaps other trees I would have loved to have had better, but every day I get a reminder in the mirror of the age that's working against me with respect to shade trees. So I kind of had to use that part of the equation to go, all right, I want a shade tree to get big in this area pretty fast.
So your point is don't scrimp on the soil when you're investing in a plant like this.
We try to tell people if you're really concerned about, because some people, guys, feel like they're being upsold, and that's not the point.
Oh man, I can get that cheaper.
Put some plants back and get your soil amendments in your soils to properly grow your plants. It's really your money ahead money way ahead.
But it's only $3 a bag down the road.
Well, you get what you pay for. And so
you get $1.50 worth of bag and $1.50 worth of dirt. And,
well, sometimes
no
the
dirt.
very cheapest quote dirt are actually the most expensive because
betty.
you can't even grow weeds in them, let alone really expensive plants. And like everything else in this world, things have gotten more expensive. So we want you to do the best with them, and that's about enough on that topic.
Dagnabbit.
We'll move along.
Okay. Bill, one of the true ad homies out there, he said he has a mess with his grapes. He'd never raised them up off the ground, and now he has a grape ground cover in a nice bed. Help! Time of year to modify them and how?
All right, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
So you got
Buffalo.
a ground cover. Yeah, they're on the ground.
They're a vine, by the way.
They're certainly a vine and a vigorous one at that. And if you can get them up, what you really ought to do is build a trellis.
Yes,
I mean, you got to kind of do it. Grapes are heavy. Once they start producing, they're certainly heavy. They've got major vines that go out, and they really have to be supported. So if you can get, I'm talking like wood posts, on either end of
He'll
your
pour
grapes.
concrete. I mean, I can see it coming.
2 posts, 2 4x4 posts, whatever you want to use. Just some nice sturdy posts with at least 3 metal wires running across it, all equally above, all the way up to about say 6 feet tall would be your top row, and get them up on a trellis. Now it's going to be hard to do it this season because they are. I can already tell. I'm sure they're vigorous and they're going to be heavy and kind of gangly, hard to deal with. If you can do it this season, do it. If not, you're going to prune over the wintertime, okay? And we want to get grapes to a 3 to 4 main cane system, and we want to keep it that way as much as we can. So some of your best French growers in France, like I said, they're going to be exactly. They're like a
Great job,
just
guys.
3 to 4 main stems, and this isn't just France. This is California growers, but some growers are too.
Oh, man.
Totally, man.
For sure.
So I can help you with that on how to prune to it. But honestly, with grapes, don't think about it too much. Prune them significantly. They will regrow just fine without even thinking about it too much. But you do want a main stem. You almost want to think about a grapevine almost like a tree, okay? So you want a main stem pinned up to that first wire that you have on your trellis. And then the rest you're going to let, like I said, 2 to 4 main stems go up. And then you're going to pin it to that and then run them laterally. So that's how we're going to achieve that. And what you want to do, like I said, is prune them heavily over the winter
gorgeous,
time.
Yeah. So the long story short is you can't really do it right now.
It's hard.
Just take care of them. If you happen to get a few grapes, hey, who knew you could grow them on the ground? But,
Exactly.
But for next year, you're in good shape, and apparently the grapes are growing well.
Yeah. Which, that's what they do. I mean,
Yep.
Good Lord. Grapes
So he
are
doesn't want to
vigorous.
try to save any of those vines. He doesn't want. He's just going to go for the main stem. And
Going to save
main
all of it.
stem
but-
and then to, like I said, 2 to
Right.
4 side shoots. The ones that are the
Right.
sturdiest, strongest, nicest, and the most spread out apart. We want them away from each other as much as we can. We
he
want
could
them
actually
running
do
that way.
more damage trying to do something with it right now than
Yes,
help.
you're right.
Okay.
You'll break stuff if you do it right now for the most part. So just wait. Just let them go dormant and then just cut on them and get them up on a trellis.
And he's a project kind of guy.
He can handle it.
He knows how to do stuff the right way, and he will. So we'll be talking to
Very,
Bill
very
more
good.
soon, I'm sure.
All right.
We have
Okay.
yet another at-home show Facebook question,
Forget it.
too. Caroline, we got to get to these live questions. These people are right here in front of us. What is the best way to make clematis grow up a vinyl mailbox pole?
Just
Replace it with a wooden one for starters.
Trellis?
Make it a little bit more sticky.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, give it something to hold on to. That's the key. So we need if it's vinyl, it's kind of slippery. So if
It's going to be hot, too.
It's going to be hot. Now, I've seen plenty of clematis out in the mailbox climbing up it
Right.
and blooming just fine in the full sun. I mean, clematis can take full sun just fine, but you do need to pin it. You got to get it started. You
Yeah.
got to get it growing up, and it,
Either
just
that
like
or wrap it in something like chicken wire, just a single,
Poultry netting.
anything that's got
database.
holes in it. Yeah, I mean,
something that will, give it some kind of
HOA
structure.
won't let you have the chicken wire.
Well, you could put it down the. Oh, so it's got to be poultry netting.
Poultry netting.
Poultry netting. I'm sorry. We'll make sure we get our terminology
Spray painted
correct.
white.
Yes.
anything, like this clematis that's sitting right next to me, this beautiful little blue clematis. Look at this trellis it's in. It's got holes
That's
in it.
vinyl. That's plastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's a plastic little trellis. But
However,
it's
not a slick,
it's
hard surface. It does have openings
Yes,
in it.
it's got openings for it to kind of climb up. So that's really the best thing. I mean, the best thing to do is get something that's got some holes in it, some openings in it to where it can wrap up and do what clematis does. Make that mailbox
do
pretty.
what it do.
Do what it do.
Uh-huh.
All right.
All right.
Caroline, go before Tyler jumps back in.
All right, here I go.
Again.
I'm going to talk really fast so Tyler can't get
Everything's
in.
frozen.
Just kidding.
So
Oh,
if
my
you're-
face is
Oh,
Caroline's face.
Okay, so we have another photo that I wanted to get in. So Tyler, that second picture that I sent you.
Yeah,
And-
that's a yeehaw. Ask the question, and I will change the photo while you're talking.
Okay, here I go.
Now,
Looking for a shrub that
Here
grows
she
6 to 8
goes.
feet tall to put in a flower bed as a back layer. Initially thought hydrangea, but this area gets blasted. There's that word again by west afternoon sun.
There's a
and
lot
I
of
think
blasting
it's
going
too
on this
hot.
week.
There is a lot of blasting going on. I mean, it is hot outside. I planted Amaranth as an annual this year, and it's doing great. Russian sage is right in front of the area in question and also doing great. Thank you so much for any insight.
Look at that amaranth. My
That is
God.
amazing.
Oh, I love amaranth. It grows like a weed. It kind of is a weed. You can make
Yeah.
some bread out of it.
Kinda
Look at
looks
all
like
them
Pope.
seeds.
Well, there you go. All good things.
But yeah, I love that amaranth. That's cool. And you'll probably just before we get to it, you're probably going to see that amaranth not being annual because they do set seed so much. They reseed like crazy. You're probably going to see that return next year. So if you want to kind of use that as your backdrop every year, you probably could with the seed, although I don't know if you want to do that or not. But it's a cool look. The amount of growth that amaranth grows in a season is really staggering. I mean, even from seed, I mean, they get that tall every year. So cool plant, just throwing that out there. But anyway,
You don't have that growing out by your steps, do you, Austin?
no.
Okay,
I don't.
I just heard you said can be staggering. I thought perhaps that was part of the problem.
that's because it's blasted, man.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Nope, I don't have any amaranth this year. I have grown it many a time. There's a tricolor amaranth that is absolutely stunning.
They are gorgeous.
Seriously stunning. So that's a cool one to grow. But honestly, there's so many 6 to 8 foot shrubs that we can use. And don't give up on your hydrangea idea. If you
No.
really like that, that's a great 6 to 8 foot shrub that does well in full sun. Like I said earlier, we just got to get it established. Like David loves, we got to latch it in. So once it latches, once it finds its own water,
It
it'll
seems
reach
like
and be
every
fine.
plant should have to have some kind of a little device you turn and the roots go and
Yep, they do.
latch into the soil.
That would be cool. I wish it was like that, but it's not. The only way you can achieve that is with water.
Boy, I'm
And
thinking. I'm thinking knockouts in that
knockout
spot.
roses, if you like flowering, yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. One of my first questions I always ask when people give me something like this is, do you want it evergreen through the wintertime, or do you want it more flowering during the season? And their response dictates where I go from that. So knockout rose is certainly an awesome flowering plant that will definitely get 6
Red
to 8
ones
feet
in
tall.
particular,
The
that
red
one,
ones are the goat.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're probably the best one on the market still. There's all sorts of new knockouts though. There's a coral one that's really, really pretty. So that can certainly be an option, but that is a deciduous option. So you're not going to get leaves through the wintertime.
But but knockouts are just barely deciduous. I mean,
You're right. Yeah.
I mean, as soon as the sun shines the first time in January, it starts leafing out again. I mean,
And you have blooms up until Christmas most years.
pretty
and
much.
there's
A lot of times, yeah.
They are growing machines. Hey, speaking of growing machines,
growing machines.
there's all kinds of growing machines out here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. That is right. And, we're talking about projects and doing all kinds of things. And people are wondering, can you plant this time of year? And certainly you can, because, that's what we do here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. We teach you and help you in your process of being successful gardeners.
Mentoring.
It's not, just selling plants is not enough. And just selling high quality plants is not enough. There is a method to our madness, and we joke and have a lot of fun here on the show, but we're very passionate and serious about our gardening. And at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, when you carry the best plants, as we try to do, we also try to give you the tools to have the very best success. Of course, that's Earth Mix Garden Products. And right now, going on, we are doing a special for our Bates Rewards members. That's all. It's for Bates Rewards members only.
Could be you. Maybe you.
15% off all plants. Now that's excluding tropicals, but other than that, all trees, shrubs,
fair.
ground covers, perennials, everything else, 15% off. including as an extra measure to make sure you have success, Earth Mix Landscape. Also in a bag at 15% off. So there's no excuse for not coming out, bringing little photographs out with you. If you still have photographs, you're probably more likely to have photos on your camera
Images.
or on your tablet. Yes. Bring those out with you, and Austin and any of our crew out here will gladly be able to assist you. It really helps a lot, does it not, Austin, to see those pictures in hand, because as well as somebody might be able to describe, one look is truly worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, totally. It makes my job way easier whenever I can see, because as much as you can describe it, it's still, without me actually seeing it, it's hard for me to figure it out. I don't know what I'm looking at or what's around me to help you design something that's cool and different or whatever. Or just simple. You want just easy, whatever. However, it's just easier with a picture.
Having those pictures and also having a sense of about which direction this particular area faces and existing trees, all that kind of information helps us. You don't have to know the size to the inch. You just need to know, well, the window's about waist high or whatever, and it's maybe 3 or 4 feet. Close enough is close enough. So bring those out. We want to help you to get the right plant in the right place the first time. That's the way we do it here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, and we've been doing so for 90 years. And I know that's I'm grateful for that. We mentioned my grandmother earlier in the program. We've come a little bit down the road since back in 1932, and we've got a lot more to show you and a lot more expertise, but it's all about the experience that we have grown on since those days back at 26th and Charlotte. So come on out and see us at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, where Josh will remind you it's 9/10 of a mile, or just a little bit more than a kilometer. If you're into metrics, you can you can do that. You wonder why there's 2 sets of numbers on your speedometer. There's and all kinds of questions in life.
Yes.
So come out and see us. We'll maybe help explain that to you, but probably more likely it's going to be about helping you have success in your garden and making the right choice the first time. Bates Nursery and Garden Center, we have been beautifying Nashville since 1932.
And I'm sorry. I hope I wasn't making it look like I wasn't paying attention to the commercial, but I've noticed something in that last image. Can we bring it back up?
Okay.
Just something that's just something.
It's black. We're awake.
Notice the downpipe. Would that affect any of the recommendations of what you might be making?
Yeah.
Potentially.
Nothing with wet feet would want to go there, would they?
No.
Strangely, of course, it's probably a function of the fact that we've had little rain. The 2 plants, the ones that are on either side of the downspout, are much smaller than the ones that are near the porch there, which I find interesting. I think it's more or less a statement of lack of rainfall. So if you're depending on rain to water, maybe that's the result you're getting right now.
But a lot of the evergreens don't like wet feet, I guess is what I was thinking there, right, Austin?
Yeah, there's a number of them that don't. There's some that can handle it a little bit better than others. But if we could, one of the first things I would talk about with that would be to redirect that water somewhere out of the bed.
ADS pipe with an adapter straight out, or to the side even.
To the side or dig a little trench, I guess, right, and send it out into the yard. Yeah, that's probably what we would do prep-wise before we would ever plant.
Caroline, I need for you to pick a question out that's targeted at you. You've been very quiet this morning.
I'm just listening. I'm taking it all in.
Well, you are, but we want you to be able to dispense some information. You've been quiet.
Okay, here's a good short answer. Will Mandivia survive planted outside in Tennessee? No, it will not. It will not survive. It'll probably die back within the first big frost we get. You can bring it inside to overwinter it. I did a webinar, I think it was this season, on tropicals and how to overwinter them. Might have been last season, but if you look up Bates Botanical Boot Camp, you'll be able to find it. Now with Mandivia, I usually recommend trying to just keep it alive indoors instead of taking it into your garage and letting it go dormant, which is still keeping it alive, but you'll want to keep it green and maybe cut it back. Or you can let it vine all over your house if it's getting plenty of sun. But no, if you plant it in ground, it will not come back. So, yeah.
There's that.
Sorry.
Okay, bring us up.
Well, I think it's time for something else kind of exciting.
Are you talking about What's in Bloom with Austin?
All right.
Yes.
My time to shine here. What's in bloom? Okay, there's not a ton out there that's like tree world blooming at the moment, but one thing, say what you will about mimosa trees, good Lord,
they're amazing.
still
I
full
love
show.
them.
I mean, they're not even half show. They're still full show. Mimosa trees are just beautiful. I really do love them. They are invasives. We're going to say that, but they sure are pretty on
They're
the wood line.
gorgeous and they
The
smell
good thing
amazing.
is that crown rot usually kills them out after a few years, so they don't live to be old trees.
Yeah, but the one thing about trees that bloom as much as mimosas do is that they produce a lot of seed. So you're going to see
Yes.
plenty of babies coming back from those, and they'll start taking over the wood line as well. But they sure are pretty. Another one is Rose of Sharon. This from last week again. Rose of Sharon still full bloom. Looking great around town. Crepe myrtle's obviously still going. We got a beautiful selection of crepe myrtles right now, y'all. They're all blooming out here. Good time to buy them because you can see what color they actually are. If you're a little bit picky and you really want that actual color, then come out and see them when they're in bloom, and you can actually see the way they're going to bloom. Hibiscus, perennial hibiscus, my God, full show at the moment. Here again at the nursery, got a great selection of those right now in full blooms. You can see those. And then obviously hydrangeas still going. They don't stop. Hydrangeas don't stop. And then working down to perennials. Got some canna lilies out there. They're showing their
Cannas.
stuff right now. Hey, Caroline. How do you like your canna lilies?
I hate my canna
She
lilies.
hates her canna. I hate canna lilies too.
I loved them when I planted them. I started with one little plant, and it's taken
Sure
over
you
like a
did.
4-foot area in 4 years, I think, maybe 6.
That's what they do. They make
It's been in the ground, but the Japanese beetle destroy it every year before it, completely blooms out. And now removing it has been a nightmare. So
They're
there's
hard
that.
to remove. They make canna rings. That needs to be a thing. Canna rings. You start with one plant.
They come
and
in
then
a can?
It makes, it makes these rings. It just grows every year. Makes this huge area. I've seen hers, and
It's taking over that
bad.
garden bed.
Like I said.
I didn't know what I was doing when I planted it.
Ugh.
I had no idea.
not a fan of canna lilies.
It is pretty though,
They are pretty when they bloom. I give them that, but man,
but I'm over it.
yeah, I'm over it too.
But
Anyway,
they are in bloom right now, so
There you go. And then I wanted to bring in my girl Ann, who works here in the office, who we all love. She's hilarious, and she grows gomphrena every year, which is a random little annual that y'all probably don't even know about.
It's a cute
And
little purple flower,
Cute
though.
little purple flower, and I wanted to mention this because they are in full bloom right now from seed from last year. So if you buy annuals, that plant is going to die off at the end of the season, and they're not going to return. But if you leave some of those seed heads on there from the last year, they're not annual. Those seeds will resprout. This happened in my bed around a hydrangea tree that I have, and they all came back from seed. They're all growing great. They're tight, and they're in full bloom, and they are beautiful, cute little purple flowers. So shout out to Ann because she loves her gomphrena, and they came back from seed. So really good one.
Many years ago, when Renee and I were first married, we had Vinca periwinkle but down both sides of the sidewalk at the house where we lived, and we did not have to replant it for like 3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
It just kept coming back. It would put so much seed down. Of course, they're very small. You don't
You don't
notice
even know
them.
it. Yeah.
But when the weather conditions are right, they can germinate and just come right back up. Pretty amazing.
Yep, it's great. So annuals
It's a lot
can be-
easier than planting them.
It sure is, and annuals can be perennials. They just don't necessarily come back always where you want them to. So mine are a little bit sporadic for my taste because I'm
fancy.
picky.
So no,
I'm
I'd say
I'm
fancy.
picky about where I want my stuff. Okay, I need it where it needs to be. But anyway, I let those come back, and they've been great, and they're really pretty right now. So. And then the last one, let's talk about sunflowers. Let's talk specifically about one sunflower that me and Caroline both grow at our houses. She showed me a picture yesterday. Yours is blooming. Mine
It is blooming.
I got mine a little later than yours, so mine's cracking and showing color. But this is called the teddy bear sunflower.
It's my favorite.
Y'all,
We
if
need
you-
pictures next week, guys.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get some pictures for you because this is the coolest sunflower. It's a true dwarf. Does not get very big at all. I'm talking like 2 to 3 feet tall, and that's it. That's small for a sunflower.
And that's really the biggest knock on sunflowers is they get too tall,
Too big.
and the wind, the first time it breaks them over, they're notorious. But so having something shorter with a thicker, stockier, strong stem is much preferred.
Oh, it is. And you can put these as a whole front border to your bed, like as just an annual border. Do them from seed, y'all. They're so cheap. You can get 30 seeds for what, $1.99 or something, and plant sunflowers from seed. Do not buy them as plants for the most part, but get this teddy bear variety. I'm telling you,
okay.
it is
It's like a shrub.
It is like a shrub, and it's fuzzy. They're fuzzy, little fuzzy wuzzies.
How many heads or get produced on each plant?
Multiple.
There's multiple.
Yeah,
it
on
has a
each
lot.
one. And you want to plant them tight as sunflowers go. These are small growers, and if they are a front border to your whole bed or something, which is how they should be used, you want to make sure you put those seeds in tight early. You can always thin out later.
They always kind of help hold each other up. Too,
they do. They hold each other up, and they just give you a really good flower show. So these beautiful little fuzzy blooms on a short-statured plant. So grow some teddy bear sunflowers. They are really, really excellent. So there you go. That's what's in bloom.
All right.
Nice.
Okay, stealing away for just a second here because, man, we are getting a lot of activity today out there.
Yes.
Thank you for your questions. Kimberly's asking, I mulch fall and spring with shredded hardwood. Is this good for this area?
Yep.
I would say yeah. And
Sure.
a good time to do it, too. Fall and spring.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I have seen soils that were horrendously bad soils that were at Lions Head condominiums, believe it or not, back in the day. And over a decade, the soil there, I saw it transform from really awful, churty clay type soil into a really friable,
Nice stuff.
loaded with humus, a lot of organic material, but simply because we remulched it and kept it mulched. This has been many years ago, so people will frequently erroneously say, well, I'll put that mulch on there and it just went away to nothing. It didn't go away.
Nope.
It went into your soil. So it really is a very beneficial thing to do.
Yep.
Got another one on the Facebook page as well. And John is building a deck in Murfreesboro around a swimming pool, and he's framing with pressure treated. Good choice. What do you recommend to minimize warping and twisting of boards? Nail them up as quickly as they come out of the bundle.
Immediately. Don't cut that bundle, leave it
As a matter of fact, I use the word nail. Use those to tack, then you're going to get in and you're going to use screws. I truly believe in that. And don't skimp on them. And don't overspan. You agree, Dave?
Have enough
Don't
support behind it
don't
to be able to-
overspan. Be careful around the edge of the pool because it's an aluminum pool. They don't take screws very well. It's not.
You mean when you go in
Yeah,
through
it doesn't
going
hold.
that way, you need to be careful. I got you.
And would KDAT would be helpful. If you can find it, it's fine.
Okay, tell us what KDAT wood is.
Kill dried after treatment,
Okay.
and it does make the wood a little harder. And we sold it years and years ago. You'll see it used a lot in playground equipment and stuff like that.
So do they kill dry that in a bundle to make it stay straight?
They pressure treat it, and then it depends on they'll bundle it, and then they'll stick stack it. I saw a KDA
Stick
treat.
stack.
Yeah, stick stack. They literally stack sticks of treated.
They put little
them
wood
in there,
boards in between.
stick them in there, and they'll air dry them, and then they'll put them into the kiln.
How much warpage do you see as a result of the kill? Is it much less than it is?
It's wood fiber, boss.
So-
Okay, at the end of the day, I mean, if you can find it, just watch the biggest trick. And David got an order this week, and you can tell that when the bands are going to get cut, it's going to pop, and there's going to be a few of them that are dry on the
They're
top.
those bands are under tension, by the way.
Yes, so
They're considerable. So
get it done and get it done as quick as you can, and then put your treatment on it. I recommend. If you can still.
Well, we're and quickly, and I know we're
Yeah.
running close on time. And whenever we did not receive.
And thanks for calling us on Monday.
We
yeah.
did not receive any surprises on our lumber order, but the greenhouse structure that we ordered some months ago and paid for was not exactly what I ordered, and we had to come up with a way to make what was shipped to us work, which. Is more, I think, the norm in this day and time than the exception. You get what you get, not necessarily what you order. So you don't have to be
Not from us.
not from you.
No.
But I mean, this other vendor that's in Iowa, some distance away, this greenhouse structure, which is a fine structure, but all the pieces and parts are not what we were expecting. So it has required us to have to improvise and. So be prepared if you're a homeowner. You may have to because of lack of availability of things, sometimes it does that. So anyway, there's that. Do we have other questions that we can get to quickly here? Because we're coming up against it.
We have just a couple minutes. We do have a few more questions. Let's try to get to them. My cane begonia is growing too tall. What can I do? So if my cane begonia gets out of control, I just cut it back. So I will cut it to like a couple inches to a foot, depending on how big that variety is, because I do have quite a few. And then I will strip the leaves off the lower part of that stem, stick it in water, it'll root, and then I'll just put it back in the pot to make it bushier. And I do that 1 to 2 times a year, and it does great. It's actually good for the plant. My hibiscus is wilting stem by stem, getting lots of water. Help.
Well, that's interesting.
Stem if it's I would say if maybe it's a tropical hibiscus, spider mites, because they are notorious for that, and that will make it look like it's wilting, and you'll feel like you need to water it, and then you'll overwater it. So.
Might need to prune some stems out altogether and waste those off. So
it is weird that it's stem by stem.
We need some photographs, by the way. If you can send those along, that'll help us out. And what else you got, Caroline?
What makes Rising Sun Japanese maple a favorite?
Hey,
they're beautiful.
That's a softball. Go ahead, Austin.
Oh, it's because it's money. What else do I need to say? It's a big old fat maple leaf. I mean, it's one of the biggest leaves on a Japanese maple. It's beautiful. I got one from my mother-in-law 3 seasons ago. Hers is showing off right now, and like I said, it's a favorite of mine just because you don't see a leaf like that on a maple very often. And also, the color change, y'all, in the fall is just fantastic. It goes from yellow to orange to red and everything in between, and it's on this big old leaf. So that's why it's a favorite of mine.
Well, I used to do things like that for my mother-in-law when she was living, and I did those to make sure that I stayed the favorite son-in-law. And she and I neither
I didn't
one
have to try that hard. I was always the favorite son-in-law.
She and I neither one let the fact that Renee was her only daughter diminish that. So you have to keep working to be that favorite son-in-law.
Yep. I do.
Absolutely. Hey, one last thought to John and Burrow. If you use the KDAT on the ends in particular, you might want to have to pre-drill before you put your fastener in.
We're going to have
a
test on acronyms next week in the lumber treatment world. So be prepared. Pen and pencil.
Pen and pencil. All right, folks. It's 9 o'clock. That means
we got to go.
We got to go. Hey, for all the at-homies, any final words? Anybody say hi? Bye.
Water your plants.
Water. Hi, water yourself. It's going to be hot out there.
And water your pants. It's going to be hot and you need to cool off.
Very cool.
Water your pants. Yeah, just wear dark ones so
AKA
nobody will
jump
know.
in a pool.
Well, that'll work. All right, folks, next Saturday morning, we're going to come back to you with another at-home show. All the at-homies love doing this for you, and we appreciate you participating. Had a fire going this morning. So
we didn't even talk about what was in the studio.
We weren't talking.
We ran out of time.
I love the one in the corner. We'll catch them next week.
Red pine, everyone.
See you next week, folks.